Oh, look, Obs. The media is very concerned. Yeah, ADHD diagnoses are rising everywhere. It's a surge, mate. A flippin' crisis. Quick, hit the panic button.
I know, right? Run for the normal hills. And here are some stats that come in bold, scary graphs with those headlines too. Georgie Porge. Adult ADHD diagnoses in the US increased by 123% between 2007 and 2016. In the UK, ADHD prescriptions are up 20-fold since 2010. In Australia, up a whopping 300% in 10 years. Now, you may have noticed over the past several years, mainstream media articles have been appearing with increasing frequency on the subject. And make no mistake, Georgie, the framing is consistent. This surge in ADHD diagnoses, a tsunami of people suddenly getting assessed. Commentary on what is being described as an epidemic of self-diagnosis, attributed with impressive confidence, I must say, to watching a video on TikTok. Leading clinicians formally classify it as a long overdue correction of a historical undercount, same data. Profoundly different story.
Yeah, mate. And it's sadly a story for millions the world over that we're going to share with yous right now, Petals. Now, as usual, there is a blaring question nobody is asking or addressing in the articles. If the surge is overdiagnosis, just where were all these people before? Because the research has an answer. Mate, the answer is they were girls. Also known as the other fucking half of the population. All right, let's take a quick walk back in history to the birth of ADHD, shall we? Way on back in 1902, British paediatrician Sir George Still once described certain children as having an abnormal defect of moral control. And by children, he meant boys. It was always boys, as the early medical model of ADHD wasn't built around distraction. It was built around disruption. Fast forward to 1968, when the DSM officially labels it hyperkinetic reaction of childhood, which sounds less like a diagnosis and more like a Victorian factory accident, if you ask me. Hyperkinetic motor hyperactivity. Like a freight train. Too loud, too restless, too impossible to ignore. The kind of behaviour a boy does when he physically cannot sit still in class. Not the kind of behaviour a girl performs when she's sitting perfectly still. Oh yeah, mate, she's off with the fairies, while internally buffering like a haunted Chromebook.
That's right, Georgie. This is not interpretation. The American Psychiatric Association's own literature records it. Throughout the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, the male to female ratio in clinical ADHD research samples ranged from 4:1 to 9:1. Symptoms such as driven by a motor, leaving seat in classroom, climbing on furniture, blurting out answers were identified from a sample pool composed predominantly of clinic-referred boys. That is the APA's own sourcing. That is their criteria built on their samples. The diagnostic threshold became inherently male-biased because the data it was built on was inherently male. So girls needed to exhibit male typical behaviours to qualify for the same diagnosis or care.
Girls weren't missed because they had no symptoms. They were missed because their symptoms were socially useful, showing up as perfectionism, hypervigilance, people-pleasing, over-preparing, masking. We called that a good student. And I want to put a citation on that claim too, because Dr. Ellen Littman, clinical psychologist, and one of the pioneers of female ADHD research, put it this way in 2021. And I'm going to quote her directly because she said it better than I'm going to. For almost a century, the majority of clinic referrals were for young, hyperactive boys who were impulsive and unmanageable. Researchers used the data describing the behaviours of those boys as the basis for the early diagnostic criteria. As a result, diagnosed girls were vastly outnumbered by diagnosed boys.
Yes. Georgie, and I also want to be really precise about something here because there are two different clocks happening. The first timeline, women are diagnosed with ADHD an average of 5 years later than men, despite symptoms appearing at roughly the same childhood age. That is the childhood gap. That is the system missing the girl. The second timeline is worse because that clock starts after she already knows something is wrong, after she's grown up. After years of coping mechanisms, burnout, anxiety, self-blame, shame, and thinking, she might just secretly be a lost cause, just a hopeless disaster. It starts the moment she finally walks into a doctor's office and says, "I think something is actually wrong." From that moment, women spend literal years waiting to receive an accurate diagnosis, and will likely be dismissed or misdiagnosed throughout that time with anxiety or other disorders. Now, the next question we should be asking, just what happens during those next years of her life?
Oh, so much happens. All right then. Now get your bullshit detectors out and let's trek on into the jungle and have a look. Don't worry, Petals. You're safe with us.
So we're going to actually walk those years because the system does not just lose her, it bills her for being lost. While she waits, she is not sitting quietly. She is being treated for the wrong thing. Anxiety, depression, burnout, a personality problem, every label except the one underneath.
A whole medicine cabinet, Petals. Years of scripts for a fire nobody thought to check the source of. Very thorough. Wrong building, but very thorough.
And here is the number that should stop the whole conversation. 6 in 10 women with ADHD are not diagnosed until adulthood. For men, it is 4 in 10. And when women are finally diagnosed later in life, the average age is 43. The exact doorway into perimenopause. So the system misses her as a girl, misdiagnoses her as a woman, and finally notices her at the precise moment her biology stops being able to buffer this enormous neurobiological load.
And here is the cruel, under-researched engineering of it all. For decades, our own estrogen was quietly holding the whole thing together.
It was indeed because Georgie, as we now know, estrogen amplifies dopamine signaling. A.D.H.D is largely dopamine dysregulation. Whilst she adapted and masked enough to get by for 30 years or so, estrogen gave her a floor, a level she hardly dropped below before, and she built her entire life on top of it. The lists, the systems, the over-preparing, the masking, then perimenopause comes along and rips that floor away unpredictably.
Yeah, mate, and everything she built on it comes down with it.
And this is the part that catches them out. For neurodivergent women, perimenopause comes early, and that is not a vague claim. It's been proven with empirical data as research from the Icelandic Saga cohort study confirms it in its first large population-based study comparing perimenopause in women with and without ADHD. It found that women with ADHD hit their peak of severe perimenopausal symptoms in the ages of 35 and 39 compared to ages 45 to 49 for neurotypical women, a decade early, and more than half of them called it debilitating against a third of everyone else.
So she's 37 and the floor is beginning to collapse. And every single person around her is telling her she's far too young for this to be happening.
She is not too young. She is right on time. Nobody told her what the timetable was or even bothered to assume hers might be different in the first place. And I want to be specific here, Georgie, because here is the part that is not common knowledge at all between people, patients, and as it turns out, most of the doctors either, which means we cannot read about what happens next. We have to go stand in it.
Woohoo! An expedition! You'll need your torches on for this one, Pedals.
Eve, Kyoheki Kaiho, Shinyu Protocol Kido.
経歴、ディノ、確認、体験してください。アクセス承認、ポータル操作開始。Access confirmed. Portal scanning. Commencing now.
Oh, I love it when she reverse ages me avatar.
Drop us in at the gorge, please, Eve. Gently.
Oh, just lovely.
Gorge Canyon entry.
Oh, yeah. I always wanted to holiday somewhere with no floor.
Drop position locked. Please mind the thorns.
Mind the thorns, she says. Just once could she say, mind the muffin rain? Fuck. I'd even take raisin and nutmeg if I had her. Orbs, this had better be worth the view. Me knees have filed a formal complaint.
Oh, it's worth it, Georgie Porge. Over 2,400 years worth. Rightio, Eve, let's torch it.
Ooh, flambe time, Petals.